Jon Stewart is back, ladies and gentlemen. You may have seen the viral show he did, his first show back, where he rags on Joe Biden for being too old. And it was really well done. I will admit that I was wrong, mostly wrong. You see, Jon Stewart's Apple show and the stuff he'd been doing in between was questionable. He had one on white privilege. He got roasted for it. It seemed like Jon was just trying to pander to the machine and was not his usual self. Now, he's far from perfect, and in his latest segment, addressing the backlash, it's actually really funny. I don't think it's completely correct, and there are some points where it's just kind of frustrating. He brings up how, like, Keith Olbermann and several other people say what he's doing is dangerous for democracy. And he mocks, I absolutely love this, the left, the Democrats, the Biden supporters, calling them just people espousing propaganda that he should fall in line with. And then he goes on to mock Tucker Carlson over his Vladimir Putin interview, which seems so forced. Now, there's a few jokes in there. I find it really well delivered and funny. And I think Jon Stewart actually does a pretty good job. The only problem is, look, there are things to criticize Tucker Carlson about when it comes to what he's doing in Russia. I think that's totally fair. But it's kind of wild that Jon Stewart takes a propagandistic approach, claiming that Tucker Carlson is a liar who is manipulating you and it's propaganda, when at the same time, Jon Stewart does literally the exact same thing, to the point where he makes a point about what Vladimir Putin said about the city of Danzig and Dansk and Hitler's demand that it be returned to the Third Reich. And he mocks Tucker Carlson for agreeing with the idea that Hitler wanted Dansk returned to Germany, which is in the Holocaust Encyclopedia. So I see this show. I see Jon Stewart mock Tucker Carlson, and I'll laugh. Like, the jokes are funny. Like, by all means, it's really weird, whatever side it is we are on, because I feel like, we are the faction that entertains opposing ideas. We are the side that will laugh at offensive humor. So we had David Lucas on Timcast IRL last night, and that dude is one of the funniest guys I've ever met. Shout out to David Lucas. That guy's absolutely hilarious. He had this comedy bit, and someone in the crowd started heckling him. And so he mentioned George Floyd. He told the heckler, "You're the reason there are people who don't care that George Floyd got his neck knelt on," or something like that. And then he got groans. And then he just went further and further. I don't want to say his joke. You should look it up. It's a great bit. And he increased the bit. He's writing it out. He's a funny guy. Then I got offended, started walking out. I'm like, dude, if I went to a comedy show and I saw a comedian make a joke about Tucker Carlson, like right here with The Daily Show, it's a really great example. I still think Jon Stewart's funny. I'm still really impressed with his return. I really am. And I'm going to push back. I'm going to show you a bit of a segment, and I'm going to push back a little bit. The Democrats are saying he's dangerous for democracy. I'm like, I think he did a pretty good job. He criticized Trump. I think he missed some of the context about the criminal trials. That's fine. I think it's fine. You're allowed to make jokes. You're allowed to make jokes that we don't like or don't think are funny. So I'm watching the segment, and when he's insulting the Democrats, I am laughing. Because he's making points that resonate with me. Yes, it's propaganda. It's garbage. When he moves to criticize Tucker Carlson, I'm like, Tucker Carlson, he's far from perfect, and he did some things that were bad. And then I think Jon Stewart gets some of his context wrong. I disagree with it. But I'll still watch it. I'm not going to insult Jon Stewart and say he's dangerous for our democracy or anything. I'm going to say his criticism of Tucker Carlson being propaganda is a reflection of exactly what he is and what he does. But I can laugh at jokes. He calls Tucker Carlson the king of propaganda and the third or whatever, does an accent. I'm like, it's great performance. It's delivery. We have to recognize not everybody's going to agree on everything. And what the left is saying is that Jon Stewart's doing a both sidesism right now. And I'm just like, okay, well, we're the enlightened centrists, so I guess we are fine with it. I'll do this. I will watch The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. I will laugh at the Democrats whinging over it. But here's the best part. Conservatives praised Jon Stewart. Oh, it's so wild, dude. Jon Stewart comes back. He says, Donald Trump is old. He's as old as Joe Biden, and Joe Biden can't do his job. And Donald Trump is in criminal trials and court and everything. And I see all these conservatives being like, gotta hand it to him. It was a great segment. And I'm just like, the Democrats are screaming, crying, banging on the walls. And conservatives are like, well, you know, I don't agree with the Trump stuff, but it was pretty funny. That's where we are. Welcome back, Jon Stewart. You're right wing. Look, I made a video where I pushed back on some of the things Tucker Carlson did. I made a video where, in that same video, I agreed with the purpose of what Tucker Carlson is doing. And I think Tucker Carlson, he's a big boy. He's not going to be like, how dare Tim say this, that, or otherwise. He's going to be like, I see what you're saying. And we're going to move on because we're adults. Let's jump into the news. I love this. Jon Stewart reacts to Daily Show Backlash. I have sinned against you. I think Jon did a great job. He says, nope. Jon Stewart isn't walking back his criticism of President Joe Biden last week during his Daily Show return. If anything, he kind of doubled down. Doubled down! I got to hand it to him. I get that he's going to be critical of Tucker Carlson. Those guys don't get along. But he associates the Democrats with exactly his criticism of Tucker Carlson. This is what I'm saying. I'm going to be like, I don't agree with what you're saying about Tucker Carlson. I think Tucker did a good job with the Putin interview. I did. I think he could have done more. I think in the end, when he pushed back on Putin about Evan, I can never pronounce his last name, the Wall Street Journal reporter who is being held in Russia, he says, come on, he's not a spy, he's some kid. He's a journalist. And Putin's like, no. Tucker tried to get a journalist released. Absolutely insane. That should be the lead. Jon Stewart should say, he can make his jokes about propaganda, show Tucker Carlson, and then say, and you know, I'm going to make fun of the guy because of some of the things he said. But with all due respect, he did try to get a journalist released. Hey, we can respect that. He tried to get a journalist released from Russia. They say Stewart opened his second show back on Comedy Central by diving right into the backlash to his first. Stewart had generated plenty of headlines and big ratings in an episode where he mocked Biden for his apparent age-related cognitive issues. Some progressives have slammed the segment, accusing Stewart of inadvertently helping Biden's presumed election rival, Donald Trump. Here's the best part. Stewart doesn't even get into insulting Donald Trump in the beginning segments of this when he goes into Tucker Carlson. He does mention stuff about Trump, of course. Let me do this. I don't want to play the full thing. I want to play just a little bit for you. I want to show you Jon Stewart's reaction to the Democrats.
Welcome to the Daily Show. I'm your host, Jon Stewart, captain of this dying medium. Why would you even say that to me? What a gentleman tell me tonight. Come on. But I don't mind because, quite frankly, the response to the first show last Monday was universally glowing.
Jon Stewart is facing massive backlash from Democrats over his comments about Joe Biden. Oberman tweeted, well, after 9 years away, there's nothing else to say to the both side is fraud Jon Stewart bashing Biden, except please make it another 9 years. Christy Jackson tweeted, sorry, but I won't be watching you either.
Okay. Maybe not universal. But that was on Twitter. Everything on Twitter gets a backlash. I've seen Twitter tell labradoodles to go themselves. Labradoodles. I just think it's better to deal head on with what's an apparent issue to people. I mean, we're just talking here.
And Mary Trump tweeting, not only is Stewart's both sides are the same rhetoric not funny, it's a potential disaster for democracy.
It's one f***ing show. It was just one show. It was 20 minutes. I did 20 minutes of one f***ing show.
Welcome to the club, Jon Stewart. It's fascinating. You know, I wonder if the reason they've started the Trump cult line is because many of us have been calling wokeness a cult. They have a flag for their ideology. I know Trump supporters have flags, and I know there's silliness around it. But the greater faction of people who are looking to support Donald Trump are critical of him to a great degree. And there are post-liberals who are like, oh, I guess I got to vote for Trump. There are libertarians who are like, oh, I got to vote for Trump. And certainly we sit here and have conversations on Timcast IRL where we're critical of Donald Trump. It's just foreign policy is a better option economically. I mean, what more can we say? Immigration. Americans are losing it over the immigration crisis, and Trump's the only guy. And yes, he's very old. That's why we would like to Vivek Ramaswamy. Here we go, John. Let's see what you got to say.
But I guess as the famous saying goes, democracy dies in discussion.
And there it is right there. Jon Stewart, thank you so much. I will admit, I didn't expect him to come back and actually have some important message. I thought he was going to play the woke game. I thought I thought it was going to be bad, but you know what? It's far from perfect, But this is really important. Democracy dies in discussion, is what Jon Stewart just said, exemplifying how we here at Timcast, we struggle to get progressives and leftists to actually come on the show. You know why? Because their ideas are bad. Their ideas are bad, predicated upon fake news, and we can prove it's all fake news using the New York Times, CNN, the Wall Street Journal. And they don't want to enter that arena. I'll give you an example right now. Donald Trump being indicted and persecuted and prosecuted. And I will not name the liberal accounts, but you know who they are, many of them, who are saying, Donald Trump, this proves it. Stephen Colbert, look at this guy. Everybody knows that Trump did it. And then, in seemingly the same breath, they come out and go, Navalny, Putin's opposition, was falsely accused and died in prison. And I'm like, I am a government skeptic. I do not care if you are Putin or Joe Biden when it comes to whether or not you are a government actor who will lie for your own benefit. Now, I've said this before. If it came down to choosing sides, I choose America all day, every day. Why? Well, I love this country. It's the best country on the planet. It's just got some crackpot in the White House and bad people in intelligence agencies. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So in the meantime, if I had to choose between the deep state, who's currently in charge, and Putin, I'm choosing the deep state 10 times out of 10, baby. And not that I like them, but I certainly don't think Putin wants to do anything good for me. But I'll tell you this. The deep state doesn't want Trump to win. I think Trump's the better option. Vladimir Putin might want Trump to win because Trump cares more about this country. Don't, I guess. But you think I'm going to believe that Navalny did anything wrong? No, they killed him in prison because he was in opposition to Putin. You think I'm going to believe that Donald Trump did these things? When Kevin O'Leary comes out and says, Trump did nothing wrong in this fraud trial, I'm like, yes. Now look at all the other trials. They're all the same. So I view what the deep state is doing to Trump is no different to what Putin did to Navalny. But Colbert is going to be like, Navalny was unjust. He died. It's horrible. Putin's evil. But everything they're doing to Trump, oh, that's good and just, is because people are stupid. Now, the reason why I say it's out with the deep state every time is because we live in the same country. At the very least, neither of us wants to be nuked. And so I can at least count on that. If I had to choose between Putin and Biden, I choose Biden. Why? Well, because Biden lives in this country. He wants to benefit from this country as much as anybody else in this country. Putin does not. Which means even though I don't like Joe Biden, I think he's a bad guy doing bad things, he's still trying to spend US dollars. So it's kind of like, the lesser of two evils, I guess. But given the option, I'll vote for Donald Trump at the end of the year. And I actually think for the first time in my life, I see someone who's not the lesser of two evils. I think Trump is a general net positive. Far from perfect. A lot of bad stuff in his record. Bombing Syria, drone strikes, commando raids. A lot of bad stuff. Better than anybody I've seen in a general net positive. But let's play more. Let's play more.
But look, I have sinned against you. I'm sorry. It was never my intention to say out loud what I saw with my eyes and then brain.
Bravo, sir.
I can do better. I can have learning. I can have it. But
Here's the sad part. He's serious what he's saying right now. I can learn. I can figure out how to pander to you.
I don't even know where to start with that. Where do I go to study the particulars of unquestioning propaganda? I would need mentorship.
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin.
Saints be praised. For Professor Tucker, Aloysius Mayflower, Kenny Bunkport, Backgammon Carlson III has arrived. Professor, tell me, what is step one in delivering world-class fealty to power?
Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism.
Lie about what your job is.
Now, here's the best part. The paradox of Jon Stewart. Lie about what your job is. Now, Jon Stewart and many of the people who have tried to follow in his footsteps, though, he's much better at it. And I think better morally and talent-wise. Look, if you're going to accuse Tucker Carlson of being propaganda because you don't agree with his worldview or you think he's lying, the same is said exactly about you. Now, Jon Stewart would argue that, oh, it's a comedy show. It's not meant to be, legitimate, straightforward news. But come on, that's a lie. Now, maybe I can ask Jon personally Tell me why. Tell me what you do. Explain what it is you do. And then what I can do is I can take notes and say, here are instances where you've provided incorrect context or false statements under the pretext they're a truth for which you included a punchline. That is to say, if you're doing political comedy and you say something like X is true, like telling Labradoodles to go F off. The joke and the punchline is that, yes, Twitter is a nasty place. And people have told Labradoodles to F off. I mean, probably. The point here is the punchline is predicated upon the statement you've made earlier as being true. So if I were to say something like, and we all saw the video where Joe Biden was, kicking that puppy. Kicking a puppy, he may as well be on Twitter, right? Not intending to make an actual joke or be funny. I'm giving an example, right? I'm not a comedian. My point is, Jon Stewart does this trick where the average person assumes what's being said is factual. Then he makes a joke, reinforcing something that is false. If Jon Stewart wants to argue it's just a comedy show, not meant to be taken seriously, then the problem is, sir, people take you seriously. And they think you are telling the truth, but making jokes about it. I make jokes periodically when I do segments, but it's light. I'll make a comment. I'll say something. And the assumption is whatever I'm saying that's off the cuff as a bit of humor is mocking a situation that we expect to be true. So I try my best to be factual. Let's play more.
In journalism, our duty is to inform people.
Lie about what your duty is.
So he says twice. Tucker's statement that it's our job to do journalism and it's our job to inform people are lying twice. But hold on. How is it not journalism? And why call him a liar? I mean, by all means, you can mock him. He's making a joke. Lie about what your job is. But the joke is predicated upon the assumption that everyone assumes Tucker is lying to people.
Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in. Freedom of speech is our birthright. We were born with the right to say what we believe.
Oh, shit. Kudos, Sensei. That was deep. I have much to learn. Disguise your deception and capitulation
What deception?
to power.
What deception? What capitulation? What is he talking about?
Noble and moral and based in freedom. Yes, master.
Now, I'll stress this point again. I like the segment. I think his jokes about Tucker, Aloysius, Mayflower III, funny. He actually makes a bunch of really good jokes. My point is simply this. You want to rag on Democrats? Democrats are super pissed off at you. Tucker and people on the right are the people who are going to agree with your right to do these things while those people attack you. Why insult and lie about Tucker Carlson? Everybody knows Joe Biden's brain doesn't work. Everybody knows Tucker Carlson is biased and has a political perspective, and he is allowed to. You don't got to call him a liar. You can call him wrong. That's fine.
Just out of curiosity, as a student, when you're sitting there interviewing Putin and you don't plan to challenge his utter bullshit, but you don't want to really be that obvious, what do you do with your face? Oh, I see. Okay, so it's not really a straight face as much as you try to convey a mixture of what appears to be shame, arousal, and I'm going to say irregularity.
I got to give it to him. Come on. Everybody's made fun of Tucker face. Freedom Tunes has a bit where Tucker's face gets increasingly bent. I'm fine with humor, man. I'm fine with you making fun of him, right? Just don't, like, my criticism about John a moment ago is the assumption that we are here to tell you the truth and make fun of these people who are liars, and they are liars. And I'm like, y'all do the same thing. You got your perspective, he's got his perspective. You're allowed to have your perspective.
For instance, like you're constipated while jerking off to a Sears catalog.
Thanks for that, John. This next bit is what really gets me.
Been there, haven't you? The guy up there saying, like, well, the lingerie ads were...
This is where, for me, it gets a little dry. I'm not gonna freak out and say it's dangerous to our democracy or whatever. I'm gonna say it's the same as any other show with a political perspective, and he's allowed to have it. but it gets a little dry.
Obviously, Tucker's strategy is going to work when there's some ambiguity in what Putin says. But what if Putin starts saying shit like, World War II was Poland's fault because they forced Hitler to invade them? I mean, what do you do with something like that? That's going to be hard.
After World War I, this territory was transferred to Poland, and instead of Danzig, a city of Dansk emerged. Hitler asked them to give it amicably, but they refused.
Of course.
Of course.
I don't understand.
It's so hard to do when your face says, what the f***? And your mouth says, of course. It's so hard to hold. How do you, all right. How do you do that? By the way, Poland started World War II. Why would a country whose navy has submarines with screen doors want to instigate a war?
All right, let's pause for a quick second. We got so much to break down in this segment. And I'm going to stress it again. I really do like Jon Stewart's, like his first one was good. Critical of Trump. I think he gets factual errors, but it's a funny show. I think it's important that we are critical and we fact check, but it is laughable how the Democrats are freaking out saying they're never going to watch him again. I'm going to watch him every time, and I will fact check him, and we'll have fun. Look, I think Kyle Kalinske is a good dude, and we completely disagree on certain issues of facts. I think Breaking Points, Crystal Ball, she's fantastic. We disagree. That's the point. So let me come here and ask you this question, Jon Stewart. What was said was, Vladimir Putin said, after World War I, instead of Danzig, emerged this Polish city of Dansk. Germany, Hitler wanted it back. They said no, war. But that's true. Tucker Carlson says, of course. But that's what happened. I mean, so I decided, like, let me make sure I have this correct. I'm not a historian or anything, but I know about Hitler's, a catalyst for World War II, among a lot of things, the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler wanted German lands restored, and he wanted areas with predominantly German people in other countries seized. And this is one of those stories. Following World War I, the Treaty of Versailles declared Danzig to be a free city administered by Poland and the League of Nations. Germany resented the loss of this largely German city. Hitler was determined to overturn the military and territorial provisions of the Versailles Treaty. After invading Poland in September 1939, Nazi Germany annexed Danzig. And so we have this. This is from a museum, 1939.pl. The war began in Dansk. The role of Dansk in the origins, beginning of the course, cause of the Second World War. It's a tinderbox of Polish-German relations. Hitler's demand that Dansk be incorporated into the Third Reich launched the largest, bloodiest armed conflict in history. Whether or not Putin literally said, I don't remember exactly what he said, that it's Poland's fault. I don't know if he said it's their fault or whatever. But it's an interesting question about what started World War II. And it's true. Danzig was after the war, the Treaty of Versailles put Danzig in Poland's control. Poland said it's Dansk, not Danzig. Hitler said, give it back. And you can make the argument that the war was over, the land had been taken, seized, and conquered, and that Hitler had no right to invade Poland, which he did not. And he was a genocidal psychopath. We all agree on that stuff. But it is true that Poland said no, Hitler invaded. Whether or not it's Poland's fault, they didn't invade. Germany declared war. And we'll get some more context in here for you, John.
Quick history lesson. Years ago, for reasons nobody is really sure of,
we actually are completely sure of the context here.
A stereotype emerged that Polish people were inept in various ways, including, obviously, submarine manufacturing, and even something as simple as the changing of a light bulb. I don't know actually how many Polish people you think it takes to change a light bulb, but it's certainly less than the conventional wisdom at that time would tell you. Now, we know that Polish people are as smart as anyone, and certainly did not deserve to be invaded by the Germans, who, of course, accomplished that by marching in backwards, so the Poles thought they were leaving.
The first thing I want to say is this is actually a known technique for sneaking into venues and buildings. I'm not kidding. Security guards are looking for people facing forward. As everyone's exiting, and you have that area where it says, do not enter, no entry. If you walk slowly backwards, they don't notice you're walking in because there's huge crowds of people and they're looking for people facing forward. It's actually pretty crazy, but it works. I don't recommend it, but you live your life. John, do you know why there's a stereotype that Polish people are stupid? It's actually really simple. Because when the Nazis invaded, the first thing they did, and the Soviets, they started killing anybody who was considered to be a subversive intellectual. And so it resulted in a brain drain in the country. This happens to a lot of countries. And it results in people thinking that many of those who fled afterwards, who are more working people and less of higher academic stature, they were like, wow, these people are really dumb. Yeah, because if you have 100 people, 20 are really dumb, 20 are really smart, and then you have 60 to varying degrees in the middle, and you kill the top 50th percentile because they're a threat to your psychotic regime, the remaining people will be of a lower average intelligence. And when they flee, you will encounter the lower average intelligence people. I am not saying Polish people are stupid. I'm saying people saw an influx of those who survived at the time because the Nazis were killing academics and intelligent individuals. And if you look at the history of Poland and their great thinkers and inventors and stuff, it's a rich, rich history. I think it's important context considering that Jon Stewart is trying to explain what's going on with World War II and Tucker Carlson and all that.
Well,
It's funny. Marched backwards to accomplish it.
I like to give you a little bit of dumb. Well, this has been an incredible primer into the delicate dance of speaking, of course, to power. Tell me, Tucker, does this masterclass include field trips?
How does Russia have a subway station that normal people use to get to work and home every single day that's nicer than anything in our country? There's no graffiti. There's
Define
no
nicer.
filth, there are no foul smells.
That's a nice subway. That's a very... Although, to be fair to the New York City system, it was constructed in 1904 out of urinal cakes by the great engineer Giuseppe Pitt.
I find this fascinating. My critique of Tucker and the subway thing is that if you go to Grand Central, it's beautiful. Grand Central Station is beautiful. Now, what's interesting is that when the train's coming in, they got chandeliers above the trains and all that stuff. But you can look for really bad subway stations across Russia. But Jon Stewart's actually giving him some credit.
It's everywhere. But point taken, it's a very nice subway. But the subway, that's only one thing.
So we thought it would be interesting to take a look at a contemporary, modern-day, 2024 Russian grocery store.
Ooh. Go on.
All right. Here we go.
I love this. Tucker's never been to Aldi.
So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart back. So it's free, but there's an incentive to return it and not just bring it to your homeless encampment.
What?
I know I've said this before. You're such a dick. Now, I didn't realize.
Yo, for anybody who doesn't know, Aldi has these. Go to Aldi. I like Aldi. Like, I shop at Aldi. Mostly go to Weiss, though.
Really, truly, like a dick. I didn't realize America's homeless problem is caused entirely by easy access to grocery carts. I had all my stuff in my house, but I didn't know I could just put it on wheels. It's so much easier.
See, so I gotta give them both credit for this one. This is a good joke, poking fun at something Tucker said. Tucker said it mostly in jest. Jon Stewart's making fun of him for having said it, and I think this is fun ribbing.
This is the grocery cart escalator. This is designed, I'm figuring this out now, where the wheels don't move, they lock.
That's
on the
right.
grocery cart escalator. Look, Ma, no hands.
Okay, Forrest.
I don't get it. I don't get why Tucker did this, and I don't get why Jon Stewart's bringing it up.
Escalator for the grocery cart, and the doors open automatically. Oh, Mother Russia.
Russia is famous for its bread, which is one thing I can assess pretty well. Look at that. It's fresh, too. Look at that. Oh, come on.
I'm with John on this one. Like, Tucker going to the supermarkets and all that, I'm like, bro, come on. Like, I go to Weiss and they got fresh bakery bread. I'm sure that I don't eat it. And many people have actually said celiac disease, there's a belief that it's not the gluten, it's the pesticides. And I'm inclined to believe it, but I'm a doctor, so I just don't eat it.
The guy really likes bread.
You know, here's what I think, because I don't even know what the point of going on anymore with talking about this is. I think Jon Stewart is feeling the heat from the left. I'm glad he still criticized them. I'm glad he mostly doubled down. But it does feel like a lot of what he's going after Tucker Carlson for is just to go after Tucker Carlson. I don't really see the point.
Is the literal price of freedom. But the goal that Carlson and his ilk are pushing is that there's really no difference between our systems. In fact, theirs might be a little bit better. The question is, why? Why is Tucker doing this? Here's why. It's because the old civilizational battle was communism versus capitalism. That's what drove the world since World War II. Russia was the enemy then. But now they think the battle is woke versus unwoke. And in that fight, Putin is an ally to the right. He's their friend. Unfortunately, he is also a brutal and ruthless dictator.
And this is where Jon Stewart is wrong. To some people, yes, Vladimir Putin tries to play off this, I'm not woke, I oppose Nazis and the far left, and capitalism has been great for us. And for us here at Timcast, we rag on Putin all the time as a bad guy, effectively a dictator. I say effectively because he plays the game, right? I won again. But the guy's been in power for decades. There's no real election in that country. And Navalny died in prison. I have no respect for this man and his aims. And I hope they lose. I hope America wins. But America is run by despotic crackpots who lie, cheat, and steal to enrich themselves with insider trading schemes in Congress and opening up the border, trying to get people to become troops. They want these non-citizens to join the military, and they try to imprison Donald Trump because he does not like them. Now, you want to make the argument that if Trump wins, the likelihood of Putin winning in Ukraine goes up? I don't care. I'm not Ukraine. I approach this from like an American populist perspective. So play that game all you want, good sir, but you are incorrect. I can certainly respect his right to exist and his show, and I will certainly watch it. And I will watch it for the purpose of laughing because he's a funny guy, and I think Jon Stewart does a pretty good job, and criticizing him when he does do a bad job or gets things wrong. Welcome to discussion, good sir. I respect it. I want more of it. Would love to have Jon Stewart on the show. I've been a big fan for a long time, and I think he's doing a really great job with his comeback.
So now they have to make Americans a little more comfortable with that. I mean, liberty is nice, but have you seen Russia's shopping carts? And Tucker would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling assassins.
In a statement to the New York Times, Carlson said, quote, "It is horrifying what happened to Navalny. The whole thing is barbaric and awful. No decent person would defend it."
Correct. No decent person would. For more on... Oh, please enjoy your thought. For more on Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin, we turn to our own Michael Costa. Michael,
And now we devolve into nonsense. No decent person would defend what they're doing, what they did to Navalny. And I think no decent person would defend what they're doing to Donald Trump. But your friend, John Stephen Colbert, argued that no one doubts these accusations against Trump. That's not true. They're all nonsense. Kevin O'Leary is pulling his business out of New York. A 30-year-old rape accusation was thrown out. The jury said it didn't happen. They held Trump liable for some kind of impropriety, but they denied the rape claim. The judge later said when Trump tried to sue for defamation that it was substantively true. Who would defend this stuff? But I look forward to having a conversation, a discussion with Jon Stewart. Perhaps we can make this happen somehow. Jon Stewart's back in the game. He says he wants discussion. I'd love to have a discussion with him. So I will do everything in my power to see if that discussion can happen. I got to be honest. As much as Jon Stewart is critical of these progressives and these Democrats for not wanting to have conversations, I'd be willing to bet a substantial amount of money Jon Stewart himself would also not want to have a conversation. But I'm still going to watch the guy because we are the discussion side of things, aren't we? Democracy survives when we share ideas and the best ideas win. So how about that? Democrats, I'm happy to see you whinging and whining and you don't like Jon Stewart. Keep pushing him because we'll take him. I think he's a funny guy. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.